Hi, I am Bev from Inkwell, and today you have joined me so that I can show you how to make your very own face mask. Now, most of the shops at the moment are requiring you to wear a face mask. I've seen a lot of people using the disposable surgical ones, which obviously is great. They're using a mask. However, I'm not keen on the idea of those collecting in the oceans with all the plastic that's floating around in there. So I have made a few patterns. You'll be able to access these on a PDF file. There is a lady's pattern, a child's pattern, and then there'll be a male pattern as well. So basically, small, medium, and large patterns. There we go. So, what you're going to need today is a sewing machine, or you could do this by hand. Obviously, it'd take a little bit longer by hand, but that's fine. You're going to need some bias binding. Now, the pattern that I've written is for use with a jersey fabric. So, your t-shirt kind of fabric that's stretchy. So this bias binding that I've got here is of a similar fabric. So this is an 18mm jersey cotton bias binding. You don't have to use this. You could cut up an old t-shirt or use some jersey fabric, and you just need to fold it and iron it for the crease. I don't know if you can see here that this is folded already. And then you're going to need some jersey fabric. I'm cutting up an old t-shirt that I don't wear anymore. Another old t-shirt here. So literally all you would have to spend money on really is the bias binding. And some cottons if you don't have them, and then you could just use an old t-shirt. So like I say, you'll be able to find the patterns online. Now it's up to you what colour cottons you use. I guess this would depend on your choice of fabric for the mane of the mask. Same with the bias binding as well. I wanted to go for a bit of a retro sort of 80s look, so I've got the black bias binding, but you could go with the same colour as the fabric that you're using. Okay, without further ado, we'll get on to cutting out. Okay, so I've got my fabric laid out here. I am using a sleeve, which makes it really easy because you're going to need to cut two of these. So this is a double layer mask. So if you cut two of the face pieces, and then you're going to be sewing those together. I'm just using regular chalk here, but if you've got some proper chalk, then go ahead and use that. I'm just going to draw around the pattern then. Now the good thing with using jersey fabric is that you don't necessarily have to think too much about the weave of the fabric. So just go for it and cut out with or against the weave. Usually when I'm making things like this, I'll make a few at once. So I'm just going to go ahead again. Okay, so I have my pieces of bias. So there's a piece each for the sides, and then I have a longer piece, which then will fit round. So first things first, you will need to iron your bias so that you've got a fold in the middle, and that will help you then to sew it onto here. Now again, use your pins or tack, whichever method is easier for you. So for this kind of fabric that we're using, which is jersey fabric, you're going to need to use a stitch that will stretch with the fabric. So I'm just going to use a zigzag stitch here. I found it the best when I've made these masks before. So I'm just going to go ahead now and sew over my end pieces. The bias binding is tacked onto the two pieces of fabric. Alright, so we've attached our bias at the end now. And what we need to do is to create some shape in the mask, otherwise it will bag at the tops where your nose is, and then also at the bottom where your chin is. So the easiest way to do this is to get a needle and thread, and then with the needle and thread, at the middle you're gonna just simply stitch in and out for about 4 stitches. And then if you pull those tight, you'll see that the fabric gathers a little. And then you'll just want to tighten that off. And then when you put your bias on, you're going to put the bias on over the gathered areas. Okay, so we've got our pleats in. You will notice on your pattern that there is a bit more of a pointed side. Just remember that that is the top then that needs to go over your nose. So the easiest way then to affix your binding is to figure out where the middle is. So you can do that really easily. Just fold it in half and give it a little mark. And that will be at the top then of the mask. And it will feed round. So the bottom bit needs to go just over halfway. The other end, you will need to cut, can you see that? You will need to cut it into a bit of a triangular shape. So it's just on a slant, on an angle here. That then will make sure that your join looks as neat as possible, because the join is at the bottom on the front of the mask. And then your loops then should just fall into place then in terms of the space for each ear. It should then be central, and like I say, these lengths will be equal on each side. And then you just need to go ahead and pin or tack, and then use your sewing machine to go around. At this stage, before you pin on the bias binding, you could add a piece of metal. This is actually a piece of metal surrounded by plastic, I think, pulled out of another surgical mask. I know that you can buy these though to make masks with, and this will just give a little bit of extra support then over the nose area alongside the gather stitches that we've already done. So that would need to go underneath then the bias binding before you tack it on. So once you've sewn your mask, you'll see you've got your little V shape here. So what you'll need to do is just sew over that with a tiny zigzag stitch, just to neaten off that end so that it's not fraying. And then if you've tacked it like me, you'll just have to pull out the tacking that you've got in there, and then just cut off any ends. So here we have it, the finished product. Fits nice and neatly. It's close to my nose. I put a wire in mine. You don't need to put one in yours if you don't want. And then I can then reverse this and have it the other way around as well. Just to know, these are obviously not medical grade. I didn't put a filter in these masks. You could put one in here. I'm not sure where you can get these filters from, but that's just a side note for you all. On the brighter side though, I hope you've enjoyed today's session. And I hope that you join us again soon. Take care of yourselves. Bye.